feeling safe is a big deal. And we live in a world where it's really hard to feel safe. I remember when I was a kid, little kid, I just left the house and played. Mom didn't know where I was at. She knew I was in the neighborhood somewhere. How about you?
When I was a kid, we just my brother and I used to skateboard all over Albany, Oregon. We'd tell Mom, "Hey, we're going skateboarding," and we would come back hours later.
Well, and now let's look beyond that. That's one thing about that kind of safety, which, I mean, I get anxious about my daughter just riding her bike around our little tiny neighborhood. And when she decides she's going to go shopping someplace, she'll get in the car and drive somewhere. And I'm like, okay, here's what you have to do. Your head's on the swivel, look around. Don't, be careful if you touch the handle on your door. I hate that. I mean, it's a crazy world. Now, you think about what other types of security, the food that we're eating in America, it's just garbage. It seems like the government's trying to poison us. And I don't know if that's true, but it's pretty sketchy when you see the things that are on the shelves. And so we don't feel safe in what we eat. Or like what's on TV, the propaganda that's on TV that's poisoning our minds. I mean, man, I sound like I should have a tinfoil hat on my head. But there's a lot of things out there, and maybe there's nothing out there. Maybe it's just because we're spending too much time watching news or watching, our computers or our phones, and it's teaching us to be afraid all the time. And let's be honest, for you and I, we know that there's a spiritual world that feeds off of our fear. Like literally, our fear is a battery for the enemy. And I tell my daughters, I would tell them growing up, it's like what you fear gives what you fear teeth. It makes them bigger. If you've ever read, do you remember in Pilgrim's Progress?
Yeah.
He's walking through the valley of shadow of death, and all he can see, and it's night, and it's dark. And all he can see off in the distance is a pinhole of light. And he just knows, walk towards the light. But while he's walking and it's pitch black, there's these horrifying noises. And there are these demons, and they're telling him, we're going to rip you apart. We're going to chew you up and spit you out. And they're just saying horrible things. And he can smell their breath, and he's just walking forward, and he's terrified, but he's keeping his eye on the light. So where in your life do you not feel secure? Is it your retirement? What are other places that you've not felt secure?
I don't think there's any. I don't think there's too many men in America who don't concern themselves with finances. Who don't, whether they manage them in their house or not. The provision, we tend to feel the weight of it, and this is really where the rubber hits the road on some of this stuff, because we can be serviced by wisdom when it comes to security and when it comes to fear and those kinds of things. But we can also not really be deceived by wisdom. We can be deceived by knowledge. Because wisdom starts with the fear of the Lord. When you're talking about what helps us feel secure, and wisdom does that. Wisdom helps us feel secure, but it's not the knowledge we acquire. It's the application of the wisdom is the application of knowledge. It's actually the application of truth.
So what I want to do, I'm going to read Proverbs 2, and this is: the pursuit of wisdom brings security. My son, if you will receive my words and treasure my commandments within you, make your ear attentive to wisdom, incline your heart to understanding. For if you cry for discernment, lift your voice for understanding. Like, I don't understand this. I'm crying out to you. This is impossible for my human mind to solve a God-sized problem. If you seek her, being wisdom, I got to find out why wisdom's always referred to as a her. That's very interesting to me. Anyways, if you, do you? Okay, we'll talk about it later. Don't distract me. So if you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, Then you will discern the fear of the Lord and discover the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice. He preserves the way of his godly ones. Let's be his godly ones.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Then you will discern righteousness and justice and equity and every good course. For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Discretion will guard you. You'll know what to do and what not to do, to deliver you from the way of the evil. That's kind of a big deal. Discretion is like knowing, where do you invest your money? What restaurant do you go to? What foods do you eat? What do you watch? What do you read? You've got to have discretion. And it's saying to deliver you from the way of the evil, because evil is out there everywhere you look. From the man who speaks perverse sayings, you'll know what kind of humans to be listening to. That's discretion. From those who leave the path of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who delight in the doing of evil and rejoice in the perversity of evil, whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their ways. You're going to know not to hang with that dude or chick, both. To deliver from you, from the strange woman. I'm not strange. Am I strange? I'm not strange. From the adulteress who flatters with her words. Did you see how quiet he went? Anyway, that leaves a companion of her youth and forgets the covenant of her God. Stay away from her. Wisdom and discernment will keep you away from the adulterous woman. And that also could be other religions as well that are very seductive. They let you do what you want to do when you want to do it. And there's like, go, what is the satanic thing? And just do what you will. Do as thou will. Don't do that. None who go to her return again. This is the adulteress. Nor do they reach the paths of life. So you will walk in the way of good men and keep to the paths of the righteous. For the upright will live in the land, and the blameless will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the treacherous will be uprooted from it. So here's the deal. You want to be secure? You want to feel safe? Seek wisdom.
Yeah. Okay. Not to really deviate, but I know why wisdom is referred to as a woman, because in the creation account, when God looks down and he says it's not good for man to be alone, he creates an Ezer for him, a helper. And that word is used specifically only a handful of times in the Old Testament because it describes help from the Lord,
right?
To enable us to do what we can't do on our own. That is wisdom.
Yeah.
Wisdom is not the acquiring of knowledge so that we can figure out life. That's not wisdom. Wisdom is the application of truth, and it is help from the Lord when it's needed to take exactly the situation you're in and let the genius of God show you how to navigate that situation.
Okay, so in other words, we are like God. Women are like God to our husbands in guiding them and loving them, and that's I remember I need to hear that a few times for it to stick as being the helpmates. Where it's a big deal. Like when I give Jeff wisdom sometimes and helping him, say, okay, go hug your daughter. She needs to feel your hug. She needs to feel your love. Wisdom on how, when he has clients going, okay, there's a client that I know that maybe you should treat them a different way because I think you'll have much better success. Women have intuition.
Yeah, and that's one of the pieces. I know a few men who have intuition, but that's the representation of the Spirit. That's seeing beyond knowledge, seeing beyond facts, seeing beyond the observed, and to understand the spiritual. That's wisdom. Wisdom is putting God's truth into practice.
Yeah. So I think that we can just rejoice in the fact that we have Proverbs to go to learn wisdom, how to do life. God gave it to us because he knew that for those who are following him or we're indwelt with him, we're kind of a big deal. You're kind of a big deal. We really, really mean that. And so, seek wisdom with all your heart, soul, and strength. Have that security. Have that hope.
Yeah.
and know that we'll see you tomorrow and we love you. By the way, this is Jeff.
Yep.